Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Authentic Storytelling. I'm so happy to be taking this back on. And here I am in Hong Kong with Graham Uden, photographer. Hello.
Hello. Nice to see you. Nice to meet you, Albert.
Welcome, and thank you for being the first guest of Authentic Storytelling 2.0,
Oh, okay. 2.0.
the relaunch.
I'm honored. I'm honored.
All right. Well, we just had breakfast and we had a long conversation about life and self-sovereignty and identity and all that. And I just want to start asking you about storytelling in a conflict zone,
Right.
because you were in Afghanistan,
Yes,
right?
I was in Afghanistan in 2001 and
Cambodia,
well,
Laos.
yeah, but Cambodia and Laos was there wasn't any conflict going on at that point, but there were remnants of in Cambodia. We went to the north of Cambodia to the region where there still are the ex-Khmer Rouge soldiers are still in northern Cambodia, and one of the top Khmer Rouge commanders too also still lives there, and we found him. We went there and found him and interviewed him. We found him in a village, sitting there. It was quite interesting, quite surreal to go into a village and asking around for this, I forget what position he was in the Khmer Rouge, but he was high up, and we were asking, does anyone know where this guy lives? And they said, oh yeah, it's the third house down there on the left. We walked down there, walked into his house, and there's this old guy sitting down on a table with his dog, and he's just sitting there. And we went up to him and said, excuse me, are you? I forget his name, but and he's like, yeah, that's me. And it was him. It's the ex-Khmer Rouge, one of the top leadership. So that at that point there was no wars, or there's no conflict going on. And then I also went to Laos as well. I went to Laos I wanted to do a story on the Ravens, who were the guys that were flying. It was kind of CIA during the Vietnam War.
Uh-huh.
They were bombing the hell out of Vietnam, but they were also bombing Laos as well. And they used to drop all their ordnance on the way back to the carriers. The bombs that they didn't drop on Vietnam, they couldn't land back on the carriers with ordnance, so they'd drop them over Laos. And so I was doing a story on it just fascinated me how the Ravens is a fascinating story on the CIA covert air force that were forward air controllers for the US Air Force. They would pinpoint targets, and then the US Air Force would go in and bomb. And they were running out of Laos.
But so that's those are stories you were telling that had been past conflicts, right? So you were not in
Yes.
in real danger, in physical danger at that point, right?
The only physical danger you're in there are unexploded ordnance, which is a big problem. Mines and unexploded ordnance. I mean, in Vietnam, it's incredible. In Vietnam, Laos, you can walk around today in the bush, in the forest, and you can pick up landmines, you can pick up cluster bombs, you can pick up bullet casings, from the Vietnam War. It's still there on the ground.
Wow.
Everywhere. So that was quite dangerous. And there are still rebels in northern Laos that I'd be driving along with my driver, trying to locate. In the book, I found out that there were helicopters downed and tanks, and I found them still there from the Vietnam War, still there, tanks sitting there where they'd been attacked and blown up, and they're still sitting there, and helicopters. And so I remember I was out in northern Laos, and you did come across checkpoints where there were young kids with AK-47s that would stop your car, walk around, ask what you're doing. So there was still an element of danger, but
So what draws you there? Why? Why do you want to go there? And what is it the story? Is it the unknown that calls you? The adventure, the risk? What is it?
It was a little bit of all that. A little bit. For some reason, the American War, the Vietnam War always interested me. I remember watching Apocalypse Now, and it really fascinated me that whole Vietnam War era and why it happened. And so that's why I wanted to go to Vietnam. I wanted to do a story on war tourism, because there was still, people still go there for war tourism. So I guess the interest, of history of the war, why wars happen, and how and why and how they end, and what happens to the people. And it's fascinating, particularly for me, that the special ops, the CIA and Mossad.
So you are you looking into the story behind what we see? Is that what you're looking for? You want explanations for what's happening behind the scenes?
Yes, because I think years later you start to understand the truth, why these things happened. Because at the time, as you know right now, at the time, we're fed so much misinformation by the media, via governments. We're fed so much misinformation that I think it takes years for us to most people start to understand why this happened. And quite often, of course, you find out that there weren't any weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. There are other reasons why America and Israel wanted to attack Iraq, Afghanistan, there are always other reasons, not the reasons that we're fed in mainstream media.
So you're a truth seeker. You want to uncover the truth.
Yes.
So what changed between the 22-year-old Graham who went to Afghanistan during the war and...
I was 40 when I went to Afghanistan.
You were 40? Oh, God. Oh, I thought you told me earlier you were 22.
No, I was 40 when I went to the war in Afghanistan in 2001, and I was single. I was 40, I was single, which was probably a big, a major reason why I also went.
Right.
I'm married with kids now, so I would never do that. But when I was 40, I was single. And actually, up until that point, I did do editorial photography for magazines, but it was very much reportage, documentary, lifestyle, that not so much hard news. But I remember 2001 when the Twin Towers went down, all my corporate commercial work stopped. Everyone stopped events, they stopped advertising. It was a really crazy time for even the commercial work stopped. So because of that, I thought, okay, where is there work? Okay, there's work in the Vietnam. There's work in Afghanistan because there's a war going on there now. So I decided to try and get into Afghanistan and cover that.
Okay, well, I have so many questions about that. First, I want to focus in what you were, on what state of being were you when you were there in the middle of the conflict? Do you see, when you see through your lens and point and shoot, in the sense of shooting the camera, while others are shooting their weapons, do you see humans? Do you see...
You do, yeah, you do see...
Do you relate to those people that you are capturing?
You do, yeah, you do see humans and you do relate, but you do, it definitely is, there is a barrier there. There's a definite barrier. And I think that's a good illustration of that is actually, I was in Thailand once doing a story on the body snatchers. They're like the guys that go out and get good karma by picking up the road accident victims, the murder victims. They're funded by charities and they go out and they pick up the dead bodies from accidents, from murders. And I do remember going out with them for a few nights. And I remember, we'd turn up at a scene and there'd be, someone had gone into the back of a truck and all their head was totally, or someone had been murdered, they'd been thrown in a lake and rigor mortis had set in there, they dragged the body out of the lake. And I do remember shooting and without kind of thinking, oh my God, that's so sad, or that's so, because you're shooting, so you're working and you're trying to get a good composition, you're trying to tell a story, and so you do feel like there's a little bit of a barrier between you. It's not like turning up at a crime scene, at a murder scene, and looking at this horrifically disfigured body, because you're looking through the lens. So you do feel like you're distanced from the subject, because you're working, you're trying to tell a story, you're looking at light, you're looking at composition, and you're thinking, how am I going to tell this story? What am I going to show?
Right.
So
You're going with focus and with purpose.
Yes.
Well, you know what you're doing there. It's not like you're put
Yes.
into that situation and you're just witnessing it.
Exactly. And you're thinking, oh my God, that's awful. You're not thinking that way. You're thinking, yes.
So how would Graham, the human, live through that situation as opposed to Graham, the photographer? Do you ever think of that?
I think,
Or do you ever allow yourself to transpose those identities?
I think I also wonder. I wonder whether my childhood upbringing had a little bit of influence on how I relate to death, because my father's family business is an undertaker. So I grew up in a funeral home. I grew up with dead bodies at the back of my garden. I grew up with grieving people coming to my house every day, dead bodies in the back of the garden. I grew up, we had a chapel of rest where the bodies are laid out in the coffin, lids off, so there's any odors can escape. And I grew up, we used to play with my friends and with my siblings. We play hide and seek in the coffins. We play in the hearses,
Wow.
and it's interesting. Yeah. So I don't know whether I had a slightly different view on most people, on
I was going to say,
relating to death.
I was going to say this probably instilled in you a reverence or a respect for death.
Absolutely.
But then you said you were playing hide and seek amongst the coffins. So
Yes.
I don't know if that actually sensitized you towards death. What would you say? Or is it both? It made you have respect for the
I
dead,
think
and also desensitized you
I would
towards
say
death.
more respect. I would say more respect and more. I always remember my father always used to say to us when we were young. He'd say, "Kids, it's not the dead people you have to worry about. It's the people who are living. They're the ones that are going to do you harm, damage. They're the ones that you got to watch out for. Don't worry about the dead people. They're harmless and they're not." I remember my father telling us that, and I also wonder whether. And it's interesting again talking about the body snatchers in Bangkok. The people I used to go out with and pick up the dead people. I remember getting in their truck, their van, and the instant I got in their van, I could smell death, because death has a certain smell, and I remember that was the smell of my childhood, was death, because it was dead people that we used to play in the hearses, the removal vans, coffins, and death has this certain smell. And I remember as soon as I got into the van, oh my God, all my childhood memories just started flooding back, because the smell of the body snatchers picking up the dead bodies, and has a certain.
And then you have another life where you've been a photographer for Disneyland here in Hong Kong. You photographed the release or the reveal of the new castle.
Yes,
It was done about 9 years ago, right?
Yes. Yeah, I feel fortunate in doing this profession in Asia, because in Asia, and you'll be able to relate to this. In Asia, people entrust you to do. You can go into different areas of photography. In the UK, in Europe, in the West, we're schooled and we are educated to specialize. So if you're a photographer, you specialize in fashion, you specialize in architecture, food, weddings, wars. You have to.
Which is so boring.
It's boring, but yes, it's boring.
It makes you an expert, absolute expert,
Absolute
right,
expert,
on that area.
Very good at, exactly, very good at what you do, and you produce fantastic work because you're an expert. But it's boring for a creative person, as you know. It's boring. So when you work in Asia, people actually, what I found here is that people entrust you. Oh, you're a photographer. Can you shoot my wedding? Can you shoot my restaurant? Can you shoot my interior? Can you shoot? You get the chance to multidiscipline across different areas of photography. You get the opportunity, you know. So for me in Asia, it's been the most incredible. I've had the most incredible career because of that. Because you're given the chance, you're enabled to multidiscipline, go across every, you know, and you can apply what you learn, lighting and interior. You can apply that to lighting a person. You can apply it to food, stuff you learn from different disciplines. You can apply to the other discipline.
So would you describe yourself as a holistic photographer then?
Holistic in
As in, do you apply all these different disciplines into your whole,
yes,
the whole of a...
Yes, absolutely.
What do you enjoy the most? Photographing people, objects, spaces?
I do enjoy people most, but what I will say, you know, what I love about photography is if you ask me to photograph your coffee cup, I'll get as much enjoyment and I'll put as much into it as if you ask me to photograph your, you know, that's the passion that I have.
What is the secret then? It's just the focus on it?
The passion, I think for me, it's the passion you have for what you're doing. That's what makes me as interested to photograph your coffee cup as it is to photograph your multi-billion-dollar business. You know, it's the passion that I have for photography. That I love it more than anything.
So what I'm hearing is that it's actually your will, it's your decision to have 100% focus on whatever it is that they ask you to focus on, and then have build a representation of that in photographic mode.
Yes.
And can you think of anything that will be out of that boundary? Could you think of anything that if they ask you, could you make a great photograph of this? You would say, oh no, I could never be passionate about that.
No, I think, and that's an interesting question because I think that's what differs. That's what if you're a sports photographer, or if you're
which you are,
if you or editorial news, and you focus only on that. If you put a war photographer, a news photographer into an empty white room with a white table and a white coffee cup and a white chair and say, okay, make something interesting, they'll probably have a harder time. But I would find something interesting because I think I went to art school and I learned.
You said design, right?
Design,
graphic design.
Yeah, graphic designer. So I have that design background, and so I have a different. I think I also have a different take, a different view on someone that maybe went into photography as a editorial photographer, or I've got the art background as well. So that maybe I think also that differentiates how you're gonna photograph that white room, the white table, the white chair, and the white coffee cup. How are you going to make it interesting? And that's what you have to do as a commercial corporate photographer. You get given, okay, this is our product. These are white coffee cups, okay? Now, you've got to shoot it. You've got to make it interesting. We have to sell it. It's your job to help us sell it. And it's difficult. For me, it's easy to turn up in a war zone and shoot stuff that's happening because it's there.
The story is already there, right?
It's there. You're recording.
But with this, you have to make up the story.
Yes. You've got to make the story. You've got to come up with a narrative that come up with the story. Whereas in editorial, in war, there's the story. You can still tailor it to your own. You can shoot that way instead of that way, right? In a war or editorial, or you can shoot that. But actually, I'm going to crop that out, and I'm just going to show that. I'm not going to show you. I'm going to show. So you can also tailor whatever you're shooting. You can tailor it to your own vision, or to your, probably more importantly, to your editor's vision, or your newspaper's vision.
Yeah.
You have to tailor it.
Yeah.
Because they've all got their own hidden agendas, their own viewpoint.
So, what do you think that an event photography stands? Then is it like a documentary photography, like in a war zone where the story is there, you have just to capture it, or is it like object photography where you have to create the story?
Yeah, I think with event photography, you've got to do a little bit of both there because you've got to record an actual event that's happening, but you've also got to be aware of branding, right? With events, HSBC sponsoring this event, you've got to get the HSBC logo in as much. Quite often when you're doing corporate commercial events, you are having to be more aware of background, really, because you've got to get the logos in, you've got to get the branding, you've got to get the message over. You're telling a story. You've got the speaker, you've got the...
In a war zone, you don't have logos that you have to frame.
No. You just,
in the background.
No, you've just, yeah. So, it's different takes on the different subjects.
So I was told by a colleague when I was really young, started working in the radio, I was told a still can never tell a story. You need at least a series of stills, so at least 2 stills. What do you think about that?
You can't tell a story. You mean,
because there's no dimension of time in a still.
Oh. So, well, but to tell a story, that's what I think also you really notice a lot of photographs you see don't tell stories. And I think it's very much, you've got to look at the subject, the background, you've got to know a lot about what you're photographing to be able to tell a story. And it's much, this is what annoys me about social media now, is that how they all want a vertical. And you can't tell a story in a vertical. You need a horizontal to tell a story. You cannot, verticals are great for portraits, full stop.
Yeah.
You can't tell a story in a vertical. You need a horizontal. You've got what's happening over here, you've got what's happening over there, and that's what you're doing, right, as a...
Hold on, I just want to grab your hand. I also love horizontal, framing, and I can't stand vertical video.
No.
I can't stand it.
I can't shoot it. I would rather have the video appear much smaller than full screen on a phone, because you can't. Yeah. What kind of story can you tell in a vertical?
So tell me again then. So why is it because we operate in a horizontal plane as humans on the horizon? That's why it's called horizontal, because it's the Earth horizon. Is that why? Is it because we understand time in a linear way, either past, present, future? What do you think that is?
Well, definitely, I mean, our vision is panoramic,
we have 2 eyes in the horizontal plane.
And we're constantly aware of what's happening over here and what's happening
Peripheral
over there.
Vision is wider on the sides than up and down.
Yes. So when you get up and down, there's no room to tell a story. There isn't any. I'm sorry, but there's not. So that's a real constricting thing.
I think we have to make a clap, the clap of the horizontal photography and video lovers.
Yeah, I'd be there. I'd be there. Yeah.
So tell me about identity, because when you are, it is a great responsibility to take, for example, portrait photography or even event photography, right? Because you are actually creating a representation that will actually, hopefully, withhold the time, right? That immortalizes that moment, but at the same time, it's not what it represents. A representation is like a copy, right? But you are, in a sense, building the identity of that which is photographed. That's a great responsibility.
Yeah,
how do you take it?
Yeah, well, quite often, I think when you're shooting corporate commercial, you do have to take in the perspective of your client, what your client's paying for. So you're not actually free to really be as informative or truthful, or because you're being paid to produce something.
Truthful. That is interesting, because then you're taking on somebody else's truth, your client's truth.
You're illustrating someone else's truth when you're doing, for me, when you're doing corporate commercial. And when you're doing editorial, you're taking on the truth of the publication, of the editor, of the. It's never your truth. You see what you try and give as your truth, but of course it gets cropped. Captions get written with your. For me, captions get written with your, or appears with text. That's what determines how people see your picture, not even so much as just viewing the picture. When you read the caption, the headline, the copy, then that's what the people take away from your image.
That frames the understanding of your image.
Yes.
Have you ever been angry or mad at a caption written about a photograph you'd taken?
Not really angry, or I was disappointed. I remember when I came back from Iraq. We came back from Baghdad, and we gave a story to the Saturday Morning Post, the Sunday magazine, and I gave them all these pictures of what we saw in Baghdad, which were, suicide bombs going off, distraught people, weapons, all the stuff that was going on in Baghdad. And I remember the magazine, I gave them all the pictures, and they were going to do a story. And the magazine came back to me and said, so do you have any pictures of shopping malls? And I was like, well, it's a Sunday magazine, right? It's a Sunday magazine in Hong Kong. So their viewpoint is that people on a Sunday morning in Hong Kong, they don't want to get up and see really interesting graphic or just really telling images of what's happening in Iraq and Baghdad. They want to see, shopping malls. And so I said, well, yeah, I do have one picture of a shopping mall, and it's been bombed. So it's, it's like, it's in rubble. So, so I was really, and then when the story ran, they just ran the story with a set of pictures that were very, some of my, I remember one of my colleagues kind of called me up and said, Graham, that's the best you got from Baghdad? You were in Baghdad, and I was like, I was embarrassed. I was embarrassed because now I did have a lot more than that, but the magazine, that's not in their agenda to show that. They wanted to do a story on it, but they wanted to, sugarcoat it a little bit. And so...
Did you feel betrayed at that point?
Not betrayed, but disappointed and embarrassed. Embarrassed more than anything.
Because it was not aligned with what you saw.
Yeah, what I saw and what we were trying to convey about what was going on there. So you just, and I just felt, professionally embarrassed that my colleagues would have seen this and said, Graham, that's the best you can come up with. You're in Baghdad and that's the best you can come up with.
So at that point, would you have had a chance to withdraw your offer and not have those photographs published?
Probably not. Probably. Oh, I probably could have done, but you have a relationship with the people that you're working with the magazines, and if you withdraw, you're probably going to ruin the relationship, and maybe you won't be published again. And plus the fact that you don't get to see the article until it's published.
Of course.
Right. Sunday morning is the first time I get to see it. You don't get any approval or any advice is asked. So the first time you see it is when it's published, and you're like, oh my God.
So here there were two very different versions of truth. I mean,
yeah, there was.
One could argue that probably your truth was more real because it was you had a first contact, right, with the situation that you photographs, and then you had the magazines, the Sunday magazines. Truth, which was based on your truth, so it was like a second degree truth.
Yes.
My question to you is, do you think there is a universal truth, or do you think there is a truth truer than any other truths?
It's always going to come down to different points of view, different agendas. When you look at, I would take the current Iran situation now. You've got extremist Muslim in Iran. You've got extremist Jewish Zionists in Israel. You've got extremist right-wing, born again or whatever Christian. You've got three extremists here. Where's the truth? They're all right? The extremist Muslims, their truth is right. The Zionists, the extreme Christian in America, they've all got their own views and they're all right, and they're going to carry on killing each other because they own the universal truth. They do. The Muslims don't, the Jews don't, we do. Or the Muslims are saying the Jews don't and the Christians don't. So unfortunately, there isn't any universal truth. It's totally from what perspective, what culture you're coming from. There's your truth, right? Unless you happen to see the bigger picture. And I think when you travel, when you go into the war zones, when you go into these situations for yourself, and that's one of the reasons why I went, you start to see the kind of overall truth, and they're all wrong. They're all wrong. And the only way you can determine that for yourself is to go there and see it and speak to the people and understand what's happening and why it's happening, not through watching CNN or BBC or picking up the New York Times. You're not going to find the truth. You're not going to know.
But it's so hard to, if you want to have a first-hand contact onto a story, to assess your own truth. It's so hard to do that after you've been fed a story.
Exactly.
You are
exactly,
pre-conditioned.
Exactly.
You have all these prejudgments.
We're all preconditioned.
So you're going to filter that reality you're going to encounter through those truths that are not yours, that you've been programmed to believe.
Yes. Which is why we're in the mess. Exactly. Which is why humanity is in the mess that it's in right now. Always has been. Due to that. It's due to that reason. If we were all able to, MAGA and everything that's happening in the States, they only get one viewpoint. They don't. Most of them have probably never even been out the United States. Most of them probably don't even know where Iran is. And yeah, let's go and bomb them, because for the last 3,000 years they've been nuclear weapons. From 3,000 years ago. Next week they're going to bomb us. They're going to bomb us next week. That's been going on for thousands of years. And people read it and they like, wow, yeah. There's probably, yeah, wow, let's go get them. And it's not true. It's not true.
Do you think that the camera, the lens, gives you a vantage point on neutrality?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely, it's being in this profession has given you access to be able to see what is actually going on somewhere, the truth. You can ascertain yourself through this profession, whether you're a video, whether you're stills journalist. It gives you the opportunity to go in and find out for yourself what really is going on, and it is quite often very different than what you read in the newspapers, what you see in the mass media. It's there's different agendas, right down to the words that they use. It's not only the imagery, it's the, Hamas, right, they're terrorists, right? They're not freedom fighters, they're terrorists. Every single Western newspaper, Hamas, terrorists. Hold on a second, aren't they fighting for their own land? Aren't they fighting to try and retain what they've got left? Doesn't that make them freedom fighters? No, they're terrorists, because that's how Western media deems them to be. And that's how we're all molded. Ask anyone here what they think of Hamas, terrorist. Ask anyone, would they ever say freedom fighters? No, because we're not conditioned.
And of course, any voices of dissent should be silenced. Like when the Ukraine war started, most of Europe decided to cancel the license on Russia Today TV channel.
Yes.
Why? Because they were, of course, broadcasting a view that was not of the interest of the allies.
Absolutely. Yes. Even today, now, again, getting back to with the Iranian situation, how much you see so much reported on the bombing of Tehran and the bombing of, how much do you see? I've seen it a little bit more recently, but in the beginning, I hardly saw anything of Tel Aviv or Israel, the damage that was getting done there. You don't see.
No.
They don't report it because they are censoring it, and they're not allowing it out. And again, all this kind of, it's influencing.
I have read reports of tourists that were stranded in Dubai, filming the missiles being shot, and police detaining them, arresting them.
That's right. Yes.
And charging them with I don't know what national security charges.
Yes, censorship. Absolutely, absolutely. And it's all not even subtle, right? It's all conditioning
So in the midst,
that Western audience into a certain viewpoint.
so what is the fix for that, doctor?
What is the
What is the fix for that?
fix?
Yeah. So how
That's-
we're in the midst of we're in here in the middle, like we're in the center of a circus, and we have all these loudspeakers talking to us, shouting at us,
Yeah,
shouting
yeah, yeah.
images, shouting messages, and we're just there. What can we do? We're not impervious to that. We soak all this in, even if we think or we don't want to soak it in. We do.
Yes,
And we
yeah,
find
yes.
ourselves repeating like parrots, these stories that are not ours, these opinions that are not ours.
Yes.
So what is the fix for that, doctor?
I'm a little bit pessimistic on the fix for it, and because it appears to be getting worse in AI. Look at AI now. AI now, particularly we're visual people. Every image I look at now, immediately I'm thinking, is this AI or is this? Again, bring it back to today, to current. The Iranian situation. I remember the Tomahawk that went in and murdered 168 Iranian girls. I remember seeing a picture, and the first picture I saw of that in the press, you see the Tomahawk. I look at that and I think that has to be AI. I'm looking at this Tomahawk almost vertically coming in, and when I think Tomahawks, they fly low level. They're terrain hugging. They come in at this level. They don't come in like intercontinental ballistic missiles. So immediately I look at that and I think that has to be AI. Now, maybe it isn't AI, but now I'm conditioned within a year of or so of AI really influencing us. Now, every image I look at, every video I look at now on social media, I immediately try and make the judgment, is that AI? Is that AI or is it real? And that now is a real problem for all of us. What you're looking at now, you have to, every single image, you've got to look. You cannot take any image as gospel. You've got to look at it. Is that AI or is that, and you've got to start to try, like I do, I start to look at it and think, is that a Tomahawk coming in? Why is it coming in at that level and not that level? Is it AI? Is it, so I think the problem for us is there is no fix, and it's only going to get worse because now we can't judge the blurring between reality and fake imagery.
So
is complete.
if we cannot discern between what's made up and what is real, what are our choices? Because I mean,
your choice is your gut instinct and
Our
unfortunately an intuition. And unfortunately, for me, I've been into war zones and situations where I see firsthand. My gut instinct is probably much it's
informed.
Much more,
It's informed, right?
Yeah. Whereas the average person who hasn't really been outside of their living room, they won't have that. So what they see and what they read is like, oh my God, it's gospel.
Yeah.
Because they don't have anything else to judge.
I mean,
against.
It could be in both extremes. Somebody who could, believe everything that they're fed, or somebody who could become a 100% cynic and not believe anything.
Yes.
But that's also like that. Those are very dangerous extremes, right? So you're saying the middle is intuition, is listening to what your body is telling you.
Yes, intuition. Yeah, and I think what's interesting is that young people. My youngest son is 7. My wife showed him something a couple of weeks ago on the phone. And immediately my son who's 7 said, "Mum, that's AI."
Oh.
And Mum thought it was real. She went, "Oh, look at this. You never, Carl, look, I didn't." And she showed my son, and my son said, "Mum, that's AI." And I looked at it and it took me a couple of seconds, and I said, he's right. He was right. It's AI. So what I think is interesting, the young people, we may be more easily mizzled into thinking it's real, but the young people are already seem to be attuned with that. I
Because
think.
they're growing up with a reality that is becoming liquid, right? There's nothing solid anymore.
Yeah, yes. And they've grown up from day zero. They've been, this generation is the first generation that's grown up 100% digital, and so it seems to me they're going to have a different take on it as well. And already they're smarter. They handle. My 7-year-old son handles all electronic devices. Like there's a problem, me and my wife, they'll give it to our son, they'll sort it out in seconds.
Yeah.
And that's I think possibly could be interesting with how they gauge the visual fake against real. What's upcoming?
Okay, so I want to ask you a couple more questions before we finish. And I know we're getting, we're just having an interesting conversation here, so it could probably go on forever. But so you've been done working for. Okay, what has been you said that the intention, the purpose, the focus is your focus on the object of the story to tell that story from your interpretation of its truth, right? So what have you been enjoying most? Telling story of conflicts, telling stories of very strict, rigid corporate institutions, or telling inspiring, empowering, happy stories?
It's well, again, like I said earlier, I've been very fortunate I've been given the opportunity to go into all of those different areas that you just mentioned. I've had the fortunate experience to be able to go in and shoot and tell stories, experience. I honestly can't say that I enjoy one. I enjoy all of them.
You enjoy the medium.
The medium,
you enjoy
absolutely,
the medium.
yeah. Whether I'm shooting a war or a wedding, I'll get the same reward. I put the same passion in. I get the same. Obviously, you're learning something. You get. So I can't say that.
Okay, but you're a truth teller. You're a truth teller. So have you ever been given a task that you say there's no way that something that you perceive as so unreal or fake that you say I cannot possibly find any truth about this thing because it's totally made up.
No, because you can always do something. You can always, and that's your job.
But not on AI.
Not an AI, no. As a creative, you're in this profession. You're a problem solver. You are a problem solver because whatever you do, whatever situation you get put into, it's never going to be. It's never going to be perfect. It's never going to be as you imagine. And there's always a problem. Problems always come up, and you instantly have to solve the problem, and you have to come out with the goods. Someone's paying you to go over there to get that. You go over there, you get... many times, it's happened to me, many times, too many. I get sent to Macau to shoot a Shell oil refinery. I get there and it's not opened yet. They want me to shoot a production, the oil refinery in production, and it's not even open. How am I going to do that? How am I going to do that? Okay, I'm going to have to get cans. Someone's going to have to get cans, empty cans, put them on the conveyor belt, out of camera, you push it, I shoot, we get the blur on you have to come up with a solution, and that happens so often. You get put into I remember the first time I came here, I had to go and shoot China for an airline, and they want to promote travel to China, and they want to show a China that isn't actually existing yet. They want to show a modern, clean, efficient, wow, I want to go there on holiday, because it's like, you go to China and, 25, 30 years ago, and it was not, it was dirty, it was not efficient, it was like, you go in there, paint's peeling off here, the mirrors falling off. You can't, they wanted me to show a China so that they could sell flights to China for tourists. They wanted me to show a China that didn't exist yet. So you do have to go in, and you have to shoot that shrine here, and you have to exclude the smokestacks over there that's pumping out pollution. So what do, you find trees, you shoot it from an angle where the trees block the smokestacks. You shoot into puddles, you shoot at night, so the smog, the atmosphere that you can hardly see through, you shoot it at night, because at night, the lights come on, it glows, and wow, that looks really nice, that temple, at night. But in the daytime, it looks horrible because it's like blanketed in smog. So as a photographer, again, you do have to come up with solutions, and you have to deliver basically what the client wants.
So you become a professional Pollyanna. right? You are given something, and you have to hyper focus in the vision. What's the vision? What does the client want to communicate?
Yes.
Find it in whatever small pockets
Yes,
you find
yes,
it,
yes, yes.
and
Yeah,
use the frame to just leave everything out, everything else out.
Yeah, and that's the easy part. The hard part is actually getting there, right? The hard part is the journey, and that's what I learned from going shooting in the war zones. Is that I learned there's always someone that's going to say no. You can't go there. No, you can't do that. No, you. There's always someone in life, and this is what I teach my kids. There's always someone in life that's going to say to you, you want to go up those stairs to have a look out at that. No, you can't go up there. No, why can't I go up there? Well, because no, why? There's always someone that's going to, in any aspect of your life, there's going to be people that's going to push you down, say, no, you can't do that. You want to be a successful videographer? No, you can't, because there's always people going to push you down, say stop, say no. You've got to find a way to get to where you want, right? You have to persuade them. Whether you're nice, whether you're angry, whether you're aggressive, you've got to find a way in life to get to where you want to go, because there's always someone that's going to stop you from doing that. And that really became apparent when I was in Afghanistan. And I remember we got to the border. Have we got time?
Yeah, we've got time.
We got to the border, and this is what I really learnt with this is what taught me a lot about in going into war zones, how even guys with AK-47s telling you can't do something.
Oh God!
You know what? You can, but you've just got to. You have to work out how far can I push this before he's either going to shoot me or. And so we got into a situation where we got into this. Got to the border of Afghanistan. We got across the border. The Northern Alliance said, "Okay, we're going to take you to the nearest town. You've got a Jeep driver and you've got a guard here." Great, fantastic. So we get in the Jeep, start driving. Halfway through the desert, guy stops. The driver stops, and the guy with the gun turns around and goes, "Right, we're going to this town. It's going to be $300, $300 US." And he's like, $300 US. And he's looking at it, and he's got his gun, and all of a sudden, you're like, shit, if I give him $300 for a start, my money's not going to last, a week.
Yeah.
And this is wrong. So you say no. And he's like, $300. And immediately your mind goes into, how am I going to get out of this? I cannot give him $300. I'm not going to. If I don't give it to him, is he going to shoot me, pull me out and throw me in the desert? No one would ever find me. No one would ever know. Easily done. How am I going to get out of this? So with photography, there's always, in the end, I just basically said, no, I'm not going to. And it was an eye to eye, and it's like, no. It's like $300. No. And then you're fronting up, and you're thinking you're gauging how far you can push it. And then in the end, we got it down to about, I forget what it was, we got it down to about, 175 US or something, which was still a lot for a 25-minute drive across the desert. It was still a lot, but you still have your life, and you still have 125 US more than you would have done. So, and that when you're in war zones, it was like that, almost like every day someone was confronting you about something, and you have to learn to get around it, or to get out of it alive, or get around it, or get to where you want to go. And that's what I really learned with photography. Is it really is a case of whether it's you need to get into photograph somewhere, a security guy's going to stop you. You've got to get in. How are you going to get in? What are you going to say to the security guy? You've got to find a way, because you're being paid to go in and get that picture. You can't go back and say, sorry, I couldn't get the picture because the security guy said no. Client doesn't want to hear that. So this is what I think has been really interesting with photography, is that it really, over my life, it really taught me to understand that there's always going to be people that's going to tell you whatever you want to do in your life. There's going to be someone saying, no, you can't do that. And it's down to you. You've got to persuade them, and you've got to find a way to get to where you want to go. And
you do like adventure and risk, don't you?
Yeah, that is definitely, that's also, I think, been a big part of my life, in that I've always been encouraged. When I see that dark alley with some dodgy looking guys down the other end, most people will walk the other way, but of course I'm drawn in, and I have
curious.
to go. I'm curious, and I want to go, and I almost want to go and confront them and see if I can get out of this, or what can I, or are they that bad, or are they who are these people? And you're just drawn in. And that is also probably the difference between, again, what a question you're asking before is maybe a studio photographer would not want to do that. A fashion photographer, a wedding photographer would not go that route, would not want to go to a war zone, would not want to confront. And that's the reason they chose to be a studio photographer or a wedding photographer or a fashion photographer.
But you thrive on being uncomfortable, right?
I think so. Yes.
Would you say you're comfortable with being uncomfortable?
Yes. Yeah. And I think that's also partly due to the fact that I'm quite comfortable in fighting. I'm a black belt at judo. I was in the British team when I was 19. I was in the under 21 British squad at judo. So, and I'd done Thai boxing. So I'm quite comfortable. If you want to fight, let's go.
You don't shy away from
I'm not going to shy away from fight, and you're probably going to come off worse. And I think that has also helped me in my job, doing the kind of things that I do. In that, even if you do have a gun, and you're going to confront me, okay, let's go. Let's talk about this. I'm not frightened of you, even though you've got an AK-47. And I think also you can always determine if someone is
bluffing.
Yes, bluffing, or whether I can tell if you come up to me and start to confront me, and you've got a little bit of a broken nose and you've got a bit of a cauliflower ear, and your hands are a little bit nobbled. I can probably tell that you are a fighter, and I'm probably gonna like, okay, let's talk about this. So I also think that you can gauge people.
Do you do the same when you're in the mountain? Because I know that you like being on your bike in Indonesia, where you live near, amongst active volcanoes. Do you also do that? Like, oh, maybe that trail is not as safe as that trail, but it's safe enough, though.
Yes,
and it probably can tell interesting stories. I'm curious about what's at the end of that trail.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And sometimes it can be your downfall, because with that story, when I went out biking with some friends first time once, a couple of years ago, I took out my camera, and my wife said to me, "Do not film on the bike, Graham. Do not film." And I'm like, yeah, whatever. Yeah, probably won't. So of course I go out, and I was filming, and I had an accident, and I did actually quite badly injure my hip. And that was because I was filming, because it was such a great shot coming down this hill, and one of my friends overtook me, and
So you were holding a mirrorless camera?
No, I was actually holding a phone.
Oh, right.
So I'm on the mountain bike, and I'm filming my mate going past, and it's a great shot. And then, of course, the road turns to potholes, and straight off the bike, broke the bike's wheel, and I had quite a bad injury. Had a big. So again, it's again loving the rush, I guess, the adrenaline rush, the excitement, the danger. Definitely has always appealed to me, and I think that's also made it easier to go and do some of the things I've done, because you do get that adrenaline rush, and sadly that's what you feel when you come out of like a war zone. Like when I came out of, I remember we came back from Baghdad. When you're in a war zone, everything is so heightened. Your awareness of everything is so, it's like off the scale. Every day you're not so much stressed, but you're tense. And every day feels like a month. When you come out of the war zone and you come back into normal life, and I hear this a lot with a lot of people that do war photography a lot. I mean, I didn't do much of it. I only did a couple, but you do tend to. Normal life is a little bit dull, a little bit boring, because you lose that sensation of every minute in a war. You're looking, you're listening.
Makes you feel alive.
Yeah, very, very, very alive, and it's very. It's a strange feeling when you come out and you get back to normal life, and you're like, wow, this is it. This is, and I think that's what a lot of war junkies, adrenaline junkies, they go back again and again, because they feel that.
This is why I kept going to the mountains and climbing and doing alpinism. Back when I was living in Barcelona, I was going to the mountains every weekend.
Were you actually climbing?
I was actually rock climbing and sometimes ice climbing and climbing the highest mountain in Europe.
It's very dangerous.
It is
very dangerous.
It is, and I was very scared.
Yeah.
I would say I was pushing through my fears at, in most of the occasions. I mean, I could definitely feel there was no real fun hiking experience where I did not feel at one moment of the hike at least, or the climb, where I wouldn't feel, why did I have to leave the comfortable sofa of home? And here I am hanging off a wall with my hands freezing. Where, a long fall. Yeah, I know I have the rope, but you can never trust the rope 100%.
No. And your mum said, don't do it. And I was like, yeah.
Well, my mum never told me really don't do it, but my ego was telling me, right? Was attempting to keep me safe.
Yeah, you do. Well, you do have this, I guess you have an inner self-confidence too, that nothing's going to happen to you, because it won't.
Did you always
got to have a little
that,
bit of that?
Yeah, that self-confidence?
Yes.
Or did you? So the first time you went into, for example, like a dangerous, risky situation where you had to photograph, did you have that trust in yourself, that confidence in yourself, or in somebody else?
No, I think you have that inner self-confidence and that inner trust that you're gonna go into this and you're gonna get out. Because you make an assessment beforehand and you think, you know what, I'm going to go in, I'm going to go out. I remember when I went to, before I went to Iraq, I remember another photographer that was shooting for Time. He was saying, do you have your sat phone, you have your bio suit ready? Because he did. And I said, do you really believe in what you read in the newspaper? I didn't believe Saddam Hussein had chemical weapons and etc. I didn't believe it. So no, I didn't go into Iraq with the biosuit because I didn't believe it. If I really thought that, maybe I would have tried to get one. But no, I had my feeling was that no, this is not right. So I do think it's a lot to do with your own self-confidence and your own belief. You make an assessment. Are you're going to climb that mountain? Are you going to go that route? And you make an assessment and a judgment, and I can do that fine. And I guess
there must have been moments where you have listened to that little voice in your head that says, "No, don't do that," and you gave into that little voice.
And you've given into it. You mean, or no, but there's been a couple of times where I've been thinking. When someone said to me, don't do that, and you do it, and then you do have a regret. I remember when I was in Afghanistan, the first time that the Americans dropped aid, the Americans used to fly over, drop aid, medical food, etc., into these, desolate, isolated places. I remember in the middle of the night, they fly in the middle of the night, obviously it's safer, drop, and the whole town went crazy. I was sleeping in the tent, and the whole town, guns start going off, guns start being fired, trucks fire up, people start screaming, shouting. And I did wake up and think, oh my God, I shouldn't have come here, because that's obviously, the Taliban are obviously overrunning our town. I'm now going to get murdered because I'm a foreigner. And I did think for a few minutes, I thought, why did I do this? Why did I decide to come here? You had self-doubt, because you think, you know what, I've overstepped the mark this time. I'm not getting out. And you think, why did I do this? Why did I do this?
I bet that you being you probably got over that in a few seconds and grabbed your camera and went out to shoot.
Yeah.
Am I right?
In that instant, I'd actually, to be honest, no, I didn't.
No?
No, I didn't. It was quite frightening, I must admit. It was frightening.
That's the time you feared the most for your life?
Yes, I do remember feeling, really sitting up and thinking, you idiot. And then I just think of my parents, my mum and dad. What are they going to think when they hear that I've been killed in Afghanistan? You start to think, you idiots. All that you've got in life, and you've gambled it against this. And I honestly thought I was going to die there. I thought, there's no way I'm going to get out of this. And then, I definitely wasn't gung-ho, thinking, I want to get out. No, I was thinking, no, I'm going to die here. And it was quite frightening.
Do your children know the story? Your children, do they know this story?
I've written it all down. I tell them stories now and again, and as they get older, they start to get more interested. But definitely, and I know this from my dad being in Cyprus when the British were quelling the riots in Cyprus in the early 60s. I remember my dad telling us his war stories, and I do remember us thinking, "Oh, Dad, another Cyprus story." I do. So I'm a little bit. I've been a bit wary about telling my sons because I don't want my sons to start saying, "Oh, Dad, not another war story again." But I've written it all down, and I'm going to give them my journals at some point to read.
So what would you hope that they learn from this?
I do. I try and teach them daily. I try and teach them something about life in general, and about being confident, about being approachable, about being friendly with people, getting what you want. You've got to. If people like you, you're probably going to get on in life. You smile at people. You say thank you, please. Little things. When people come in, you acknowledge them, so I'm always trying to instill in them self-confidence. Is the biggest thing that I try and instill. Is self-confidence and your own self-worth, and what you definitely, the karma of what you put out, that's what you're going to get back. And so this is what I try and instill with them. Just one other thing I also remember where you just think that is in Iraq. I remember we were driving along a highway late at night, and everyone drives in convoys very, very fast in Iraq. You have to drive very quickly. You can't, you fly along 100 kilometers. You stay close together. And I remember the convoy in front of us, they drove, the Americans parked a dark green or whatever it was, a tank across a pitch black highway. The convoy in front of us drove straight into it, bang, So we stopped and we pulled over. We pulled over the middle reserve to start to go up the highway the other way, so we could carry on with our journey. And as we did that, American soldier picked up his sight, his gun, and you see the red laser come on, targeting my driver.
Oh God!
And they're shouting, and I'm shouting at my driver, "Stop! You've got to," because we were like half a trigger away from being shot. And I don't know whether I had one on me as well, but they were mainly on that I could see was on the driver. And at that point too, you think, my God, you're just like half a trigger away from death.
Yeah.
And that was so things like that also. You do for a second, you just do think, why did I do this? Why did I do this? I'm not going to change the world. My pictures aren't going to make any influence. And all those people, you're going to upset your family.
But do you think that your work has had a net positive so far?
I don't. Well, I haven't really done enough on the reportage and news. I haven't done enough of that. The only way I can say is with the corporate and commercial side. I do feel that when you shoot a nice Hong Kong skyline, or you shoot something that's positive and going to help people, think, wow, that's a really cool place. I want to go there. That on that level, you feel, you're going to help sell this product. You're going to help that person become successful in their business. You're going to shoot that wedding, and that wedding couple are going to think, Graham, these pictures are beautiful. Thank you so much. That's what you take away from being, I think, from being a photographer is making people happy when they see your pictures.
Inspiring through your pictures.
Yeah. And now I give, my sons are both interested. They're 7 and 11. They're interested in making, they've got their own YouTube channel. And my youngest particular is interested in, he loves the fact that he can film now with the Osmo 3. He can use the camera, and they're quite excited about storytelling.
What is there about storytelling that is so?
And I don't know, but what we find is their friends also want to get involved in it now. A little, I guess, when my sons make a video now for their YouTube channel, now their school friends are saying, Rio, can I be in your next video? I want to be in your next video. So they want to be in the video as well. So I think people like seeing themselves. I guess, particularly in the social media age, people like seeing themselves, right? On the screen.
Yes.
People like to tell other people what they're doing. No matter how dull it is, they want to...
It's probably a confirmation, right, of one's
Yes.
identity,
Yes.
whether
yes.
visual or
yeah,
otherwise.
Absolutely, yeah. What you're doing in life.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
And talking about identity, I don't want to go into that route, but we were talking earlier about how during the pandemic there was all this shedding of one's identity because much business was stopped, right? So
Yes.
You said you were forced into half a partial retirement, right, during
Yes.
that time, and that.
Yeah.
And you had to confront the fact of who I am without my work. So
Yes.
that's all about identity.
Absolutely, yeah, 100% identity. I've got...
And
yes.
you are usually the one who actually is helping put an identity onto an image and create identity. And then you were confronted about yourself.
Yes, and I had my identity taken away because I couldn't take pictures. I could take pictures at home of my family or of the bugs in the garden, but I couldn't take pictures. People weren't calling up saying, Graham, can you go and shoot our airline? Can you go and shoot our oil tanker in the Strait of Singapore? So people weren't... Disney, can you come and shoot? We've got a brand new castle at Disney. Can you come and shoot it? People weren't calling you up anymore. People weren't calling you up. And so, yeah, I felt like I lost a big part of my life had been lost out of forced semi-retirement. And so, yeah, so your self-confidence takes a hit.
Yeah. So there's I think a common thread that's been running along all this conversation, which is about listening to oneself, one's intuition, and also about inspiration, right? Because that's, as a storyteller, that's what you do, right? You focus all your attention into an object and imprint a vision into that object that makes it shiny, and it makes it likable, desirable. Right?
Yes.
You've been filming. You've been photographing in the airport in the last couple of days, right?
Yes.
So how did you instill that vision, that inspiring quality into those pictures?
Well, I have a real penchant and passion for aircraft for a start. For a start, from when I was very young, my parents used to take me to my birthday treat was to go to Gatwick Airport and watch the planes take off.
Plane spotting.
Plane spotting. I'm a plane spotter. I am 100% plane spotter. So I do have a passion for photography. So when I get to go and shoot for the airport authority, which I've been doing for like 25 years, again, that's another dream job for me.
The Hong Kong airport.
Yeah, Hong Kong airport. Yeah, I've shot for airlines and I shoot for the airport, the annual report. And for just, any literature, whatever, the books and stuff. So again, I guess it comes down to another passion. If you're passionate about things, I'm passionate about aircraft. I love aircraft. So yeah, for me, that job is a dream job for me.
Have you ever taken photos from the cockpit during a flight?
Yes, yeah. I've been in the cockpit. Yeah, when you were allowed to go into cockpits, I remember I'd been in...
Yeah, you're not allowed anymore, right?
Not allowed since 9/11, you can't go in. But yeah, I've been invited into the cockpits before. I've done a lot of aerial photography from helicopters. I luckily...
I've seen some videos.
Yeah, I'm very fortunate to have done a lot of aerial photography from the Peninsula helipad. You know, we take the doors off, we go out and we fly around and you lean out and shoot whatever needs to be shot from the helicopter. So I've been very, very fortunate to have done that. And again, that is very exhilarating. You know, you're leaning out and you've got the 99.9% of the time you've got the 5-point, you've got the harness on. One time I remember I did get into a helicopter and the pilot forgot to do a check. And I forgot to put my harness on. I forgot. And because I'd put 7 GoPros inside. I was so focused on getting 7 angles of the GoPro inside the helicopter and GoPros on me and shooting, and I forgot to check my seatbelt. We took off, we started flying, and I'm leaning out, I'm shooting, and I'm kind of leaning a little bit more, and I'm thinking, oh, this is interesting. I'm leaning out more than I normally could, and I've actually got video of, because I've got GoPro now, I've got video of me, and then at some point I kind of stop, and I kind of look down and I think, oh my God, I didn't have my seatbelt on. and I was leaning right out like this, leaning right out, and
Oh my God.
yeah, and that was really that was dangerous.
How many times have you almost died?
No, not many.
Well, come on.
No.
That was, I mean, it's been two already, right? In Afghanistan, thinking about the Taliban were going to murder you, and then
Well-
you almost fell off that helicopter.
Yeah, well, there was a couple of more times where once me and the writer that I was with, we were on our way to see a security guard near the Baghdad hotel, and I remember we were on our way there with our driver, and all of a sudden, suicide bomb went off, and it went off. We could feel the shockwave go through the car, and it went off right where we were standing, where our security guard friend was. He was a security guard that took us into the hotel where the CIA and Mossad were. He took us in there for a little tour, which was very interesting. He was standing there, and the car had driven along there and exploded right where he would have been. He wasn't standing there, but we were on our way, I think, to see him. And literally 2 minutes before we got there, suicide bomb.
Wow.
I've still got the pictures. Suicide bomb exploded. And it's quite interesting. We went to a church beforehand because the writer is very religious, Catholic. We went to a church that morning. She wanted to pray. We went there, and I stood around. She prayed, and then we left. And then we were on our way to go past that hotel. 2 minutes, literally 2-3 minutes before we would have got to the hotel, suicide bomb blew it up. So that's interesting too, when you think about things like faith and whether you have faith or whether you don't, and things like she was in praying, and then 2 minutes before we got to the hotel, it blew up.
Wow.
So stuff like that was kind of close, but
But if you had that confidence in you that you were put here for a reason, we're going to have a long life anyways, right?
to a certain extent, yeah.
I was telling this to myself when I was climbing and feeling that I could easily die here.
Well, yeah, but actually, you have to have that point of view, because as soon as you start to have self-doubt,
Yeah.
you're out.
Yeah.
Right? You can't
It's a self-fulfilled
operate.
prophecy.
Yes, you cannot operate in situations whether you're hiking, you're climbing the mountain, or you're going into a war zone. If you think, oh my God, I can die here, I'm gonna, what happens if I die? You can't think that way. So you shut that out, don't you? You shut it out, and you're like, I'm not gonna die. I'm gonna be fine. I'm gonna finish the hike. I'm gonna get good pictures. I'm gonna get back. I'm gonna have stories to tell. I'm going to have an interesting life experience that I'm going to learn from, that's the way you think. You don't think about, oh my God,
but that's the way you think, and you probably have it easier because you've been trained in all those years of storytelling, of knowing what to include in the picture and what to leave out of the picture. So you probably are more trained, and your mind knows, okay, this is conducive of the story I want to tell. I'm going to focus on this side of the story, not the I might die, I could die, I don't know if I can do this. Just I'm going to do it.
Yes, I think so. Yes, that's the focus that you are trained to have, and that you have to have. As soon as you lose focus, you're out.
Yeah.
Right?
Would you say that's one of your top skills in life that the profession has given you?
I think so, and I think focus. Yeah, definitely. And I think all your life skills come together. I was talking about my judo earlier. Judo, I started judo when I was 10. I got to black belt when I was just a day after my 17th birthday. I got my black belt. Got in the British team when I was 19, under 21 team. Judo teaches you focus, right? You focus. As soon as you get scared or you get injured or you lose the fight.
Huh.
If someone makes you angry, makes you lose composure, you lose the fight. No matter how scared you are.
Anger makes you lose personal power?
Yes. Anger, because you lose focus with anger. So when you learn to control your anger, focus your anger, you can defeat what you've got to defeat here. It doesn't matter how big the guy is. If he comes in, it doesn't matter how big he is. If he's got a gun, if you're scared, you've lost already.
Tell me another negative emotion that you can flip to your benefit. You said that anger, you have to use anger to focus, because otherwise it takes your personal power away. Tell me about another, I don't know, could you do the same with anxiety, with fear?
I think what I think is interesting is when you can channel your emotions, whether it's anger, fear, when you can channel it and you can get what you want. Another example, I was photographing a transvestite in Wan Chai many years ago, a very big guy, but he called himself a transsexual, because sometimes he was a man, sometimes he was a lady, and sometimes he would dress up as a man and he would be a man, and other times he would be a lady. He'd put his wig on, his makeup, he'd put his dress on, and he would be very effeminate.
So he would be like what today you would call fluid, or
Yes.
non-binary maybe, or sometimes fluid in the gender.
Yes, a fluid gender. Yeah, and I remember I met him, and I forget how I got connected, but he said, I said, can I do a story on you? I'd love to do a story on you. I think you're very interesting. People need to know about this subject because it's a bit of a taboo subject, right? And so it's very interesting for me, this person's psychology. How come you're the whole story was interesting. So I went out to photograph him in Wanchai. He dressed up, got his best dress on, wig, everything. So I've got my lights, camera, tripod, and I've got to set up a nice shot. I started to shoot him. A bunch of drunk guys that had a few too many drink came over and started saying, effing, derogatory words, against people that were different, sexual persuasion than they were. And they were being really rude and aggressive. And I said to them, look, excuse me, guys, but you know what? I'm trying to photograph this person. Please have a little bit of respect. I'm trying to photograph this person. Would you, just go and enjoy yourselves, and please just leave us alone. And they're like, we're not going to, swearing. They came over and they ripped his wig off, threw his wig on the floor. And I said, guys, and one of them came over to me and said, you better, if you don't shut up, I'm going to, So immediately I go into my, look guys, I do not, please just, I go into my passive, like, please leave us alone. And I'm just winding him up, disarming him before I knock him out. So I'm like, because I can see that this is going to end up really badly. How am I going to get out of it? Okay, I'm like, look, okay, I don't want any trouble, please. I'm just trying to do a job. I don't want any trouble, please. And as he's like, as I bring him in and bang, I really uppercut him, hit him several times, knocked him on the floor, got him on the floor with my judo. That's the best. I want to get him on the floor as quickly as possible, get him on the floor. And then I start, I really start to pummel him, push his eyes in the socket, and really try to hurt him, because I've got to hurt him to be able to get out of this. And I had blood all over my shirt where
Wow.
And so, but yeah, I let him up, and there's about three mates. And then I said to his three mates, okay, who's next? And they all like, okay, forget it, let's go. So they all moved off, and they let us go. But so in that situation, you focus, you chant, you can't be scared. And I'm thinking, this is going to get aggressive. They're going to attack this guy now. They're going to attack. They pulled his wig off. Now they're going to hurt him. So I'm not going to let this happen. So I draw him over, say, look, please, the bully. There's always one that's the worst. And I pull him over, egg him on. Leave me alone. Bang. And then knocked him out. And so that's the way. Also, you use all your life skills,
All resources, yeah.
all your resources, all your life skills
So,
to get to where you want to get.
You have this wide range of tools,
yes,
right? And which shows, as I see, not only in your profession but also in your life, right? So you have the tools that if you need to go into one-on-one body fight, you can.
Yes.
And you have the skill set, so you will when it's necessary.
Yes.
But also, what is that you have to go into this when you need to, right? But this is not your first tool of choice.
No, it's my last tool of choice.
Of course, your last tool of choice.
Yes.
So where do you see humanity going in this, with this range? Because we're capable of so much, but not always, but we tend to default to our lowest emotions.
Yeah.
Globally with conflicts.
Yes. Yeah. Unfortunately, it's pessimistic on that.
You're pessimistic on that.
Well, I'm pessimistic because.
But you are an activist on human connection, on inspiration.
Yeah. Again, that's what you have to do. You have to focus on your positivity, right? You have to try and make things better.
And you build your own world. So
yes,
even though
yes.
with the outer world you might be pessimistic, you're probably optimistic within your inner circle, right? With your family,
yes,
with your...
yeah, exactly. That's what you have to do. You have to build your optimistic circle, and you have to project that on your kids, particularly, or your family, your friends, and
And that becomes your truth.
yes, because you can't let all this that's typical again as what's going on right now. Again, every morning now I dread putting on my device and reading the news. I dread it.
I just don't do it then.
I've been a news hand all my life. I've tried to be less now. As I get older, I do try and you do have to follow it less because it's too depressing, isn't it? News and the way humanity is going and has always gone probably, it is depressing. You can't focus on that, right? You have to focus on the positive things in your life, and like you say, your circle of positivity, and that's what you have to bring to the table what you can, which is whatever positive means you have to try and counter this nonsense that's going on in the rest of the world.
And it's getting more and more exhausting, because if you want to be a critical thinker, right, nowadays with all this, not fake news, but not only fake news, but AI, you have to keep your critical thinking on at all times, right?
Yes.
So like browsing through the news, it's not like it used to be 30 years ago.
Right.
It's like, okay, I'm assessing, do I believe this? Is this image real? What are the motivations behind, this war or this conflict or these declarations or this, that. It's exhausting.
Yes. Yes.
So it makes me want to,
yes.
sleep isolated in a cabin in the woods.
Yes, but you would be bored. You would be bored, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
In your cabin in the woods and I guess that's the flip side, is that you try and isolate yourself from all this other problems arise, as I saw with COVID.
Yes.
So,
Graham Uden, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Is there any, I don't know, I can ask you a final question if you want, or you can tell me whatever you want to close. Do you want a question, or do you have something you want to share?
No, I don't.
Okay, so here's my question.
Yeah.
What are the top 3 lessons you would instill in a storyteller? What are the top 3 lessons you've learned in your career you would want to share with fellow storytellers?
I think having a passion, definitely having a passion for what you're doing, is really key. Having empathy and understanding of what you're shooting or what you're trying to do. Do a bit of research and have empathy and in terms of storytelling. Obviously definitely having a creative eye helps. I think that's something that maybe is really hard to learn. I think having a creative eye, I really do feel you're kind of born with it or you're not. I think it's hard to attain a real artistic and critical eye over what you're shooting or the story you're telling. There's actually there's more than 3, aren't there? There's
Okay.
more than 3.
Tell me more. Tell me more.
Just obviously having a connection. What's really important is to have a connection with people, and to get the result you require, you need to have that connection with people. Again, politeness, understanding, all-inclusiveness.
Which again, you need to be an activist for, right? Keep seeing the light in everybody.
Yes.
Despite everything.
Yes, you do.
Despite the masks, despite the whatever differences.
Yes.
Despite the stories you're told to believe on a...
You have to look beyond that, don't you?
Yeah.
You have to look beyond that and again go
and see
within.
the essence in everybody.
Yeah. And you get that from your own essence, from the essence of yourself, from your intuition.
Yeah.
And I guess intuition also is born through the experiences in your life. The experiences in your life train your intuition. So you've got to get out there and experience in life experience life to be able to attain that high level of intuition. Yeah.
Graham, I don't think that you are at any risk of becoming a cynicist, a cynic, as you said earlier. Maybe, on a global scale, but I think that deep down you are a humanist.
Yeah, yeah. And I think what's really also what is key is when you're talking to someone and you're debating something is always stay with the debate. Don't attack the person personally for their views, because their views are coming from their own experiences. And I think you've got to focus on the debate and not focus on attacking other people.
And there's always something to learn from everybody, isn't there?
Absolutely, yes. If you're open to learning. Again, a lot of people.
See, during this conversation, I just learned what it feels like to, fear for your life, also what it feels like to almost fall off a helicopter, and I haven't had to live through this.
Well, you're hiking. You probably.
I can relate to that more easily than other people probably.
Have you been near to putting a wrong foothold or losing a grip or something?
Oh yes.
And your heart skips a beat, right?
Oh yes.
And you think what could have happened?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I have
yes.
some film.
Oh, have you?
Some video of me falling off and just being left dangling off the rope.
It's funny because that is all the things I've done. That doesn't appeal to me.
No.
To be dangling off a rope. I mean, to be, when I see that,
it didn't appeal to me either.
What the guys that climb without ropes? The
the free climbers. Oh no!
I saw a movie on a free climber.
Yes.
In the States, he climbed.
Yes. The Yosemite, the Capitan.
Yes. That made me feel a little bit physically sick.
Yeah.
That movie.
I watched that documentary while I was flying.
So did I.
Yeah.
And
on the plane, and I was like, oof.
As a much of adrenaline junkie I can be, that to me made me feel sick.
I know.
And I was like,
the key is, I think his name was Alex something.
He did die, right?
Well, there's just maybe we're talking about a different documentary though, because there's two different documentaries.
But it was El Capitan was one of the ones, and it was in Yosemite, I'm sure.
Yeah.
It was.
So there was So
you've got a girlfriend.
I two documentaries, both with the girlfriends. One didn't die, the other one did die, because he would like to also do the most extreme climbs in the snow and in the ice with no companion. So at one point, there was one that disappeared. But the key about this one, the first one at least, that was free climbing El Capitan, is that he had done it so many times with rope that he knew every single hand and foot. So at the end, it was like it was not at risk when he was doing it with rope. So it was no difference for him to just take the rope away. That was he was so trained into that he knew every single move. But it's still scary to an external observer. So that was scary.
Really scary.
All right, look, we've got to put an end to it because we could go on forever. But thank you so much.
Lovely to meet you.
Thank you so much, Graham.
I enjoyed it very much. Yeah.
Thank you for making time here in Hong Kong right after your gig.
You're welcome. In between gigs. Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe another time we can talk about Disneyland, which is one of my favorite places on earth as well. So
because you're going there, aren't you? Oh,
we went
there.
Yeah, we went last week.
Oh, that's interesting.
Oh yeah.
Well, I'd be interesting to hear what you're.
Oh well, you know what? Maybe we can just start a second episode right now.